Hello everyone and Assalamu alaikum. Today the topic we are going to discuss is postcolonialism. It is actually an historical period or state of affairs representing the aftermath of Western colonialism. It's basically the time after colonialism that is known as postcolonialism. Now, people do say what is the difference between colonialism and imperialism? Imperialism is when one country seeks dominance over the other state through soft power. It indicates when a country gets under the loan or IMF. Even the loan of IMF, Pakistan is under a great loan, and therefore the other states gets dominant over the other country. Colonialism is to attack a nation through hard power, to take the control of another country through visible power system. It indicates the aspect of how British had ruled over subcontinent. The forceful rule. EIC company was a corporation to establish the British rule and presence in the subcontinent. Now, after the colonialism, there is the concept of decolonialism, and after decolonialism, there is postcolonialism. It's not that colonialism and then postcolonialism. Postcolonialism started after decolonization when the colonial masters got departed from colonies in subcontinent. It started in 1947. Robert Young argued that this literature is not only produced after decolonization, it arrived with the entrance of colonizers with their tactics to establish their own rule until they left. The whole period comes under postcolonialism. So the postcolonial literature of subcontinent started with the arrival of East India Company, but after decolonization they left their everlasting effect in the form of a legacy. Ahmed Ali in Twilight in Delhi referred to the last days of Mughal Empire, and he described the flaws presented in the government due to the effects of EIC. They were here in subcontinent with the effect of white man's burden. Now, what is white man's burden? Let's study ahead. Now, I would mention a lot of references through people and the books they have written. So, Edward Said book Orientalism and Culture and Imperialism. When Orientalism referred to the idea of Eurocentrism, which means Europe is the center of civilization, and it was an abstract idea because at surface level, this discourse was led by masters that the civilization lies only in Europe and should be propagated to the rest of the world. They presented their literature as transcendental or universal. Two things were common in the image of West as superior and the image of East as inferior. Superiority or superior is the center, and inferiority or inferior things are always at the periphery. That Hurt an Air by Muniza Shamsi, where she said, I'll send my son to Europe in order to learn English because I want him to be an Englishman. Duty formally asserted by white people to manage the affairs of non white people whom they believe to be less developed. Actually, she was influenced from the British ideology that prosperity lies in the West. It was imparted into our minds through academia, literature and philosophy, because everything was in the hands of West. They also presented African as barbaric, and whatever had they portrayed, people believed it so far because those were the authorities, and even till now what they portray is considered as right. After the 9/11 attack, Islam, our religion, and people of the East were considered as barbaric, terrorist, while if they do such things, so they are known as freedom fighters. These masters have attacked three fundamental and basic pillars: the culture, religion, and language of East and African nations. Those who even are underdeveloped, or they are these areas or people of such areas are always at the periphery. They first they attacked language in a sense that they transliterated the works of those nations language into English, as for instance Urdu to English, in order to understand the ideologies of the nation. They first educated themselves, until now they study our religion, Quran, or our Muslim philosophers such as Ibn Khaldun, and etc., to know the philosophies behind it, and then they implemented their theories and philosophies in their system to keep it well functioning, and eradicating all the ills and wills of the society. Till now, even if you people go to the foreign and you visit their library, so our Quran, our Muslim philosophers and their writings have been put there, so because they have such great theories in their works, and they do implement our theories in their system. And for this purpose, they hired local people, mostly feudal lords, who translated them. These people who helped Britishers got their company ship and worked at a bridge between two languages as termed as compounder of intelligence. Another strategy that these Britishers employed was divide and rule system. As we can see the example in novels like Cracking India, Ice Candy Man by Bapsi Sidhwa, and The Heart Divided by Sara Sileri, they break the unity between Hindus and Muslims, and then they form their own established rule. Then there is even a reference in 1857 War of Independence. An army of a British man said, "We almost were at a point of leaving subcontinent because they failed it." Now failed what? They failed to establish their own system. Then they said, but then we form another strategy to use Sikhs and Hindus against Muslims to establish their own rule, and then they became successful. Now, the third thing is that they introduced English as a standard language. For instance, they hired people who were well educated in English. Essays like Decolonization of Mind showcases that we are yet colonized through minds. Now, still, if people here are private schools, private institutes, and even on the official level, we do speak English, and we have made a standard of intelligence that people who can say or speak in English, they are intelligent than people who do not know even what English is. So here it has been made the level of intelligence for the people. Okay, then Franz Fanon wrote a book, Black Skin White Mask, where he said that the West had presented their language as standard in such a way that they presented other languages as non-standard or inferior, also known as the languages that stand at the periphery. Europeans carry their language with them. For instance, when Britishers will arrive Pakistan, they'll most probably speak in English. They also attacked culture here. Now, they believed that non Europeans do not possess any culture at all, and even they possess that is inferior. For instance, culture of marriage in Pakistan, where girls do not even know whom they are getting married. So West has propagated the idea of marrying through novels like Pride and Prejudice, where a girl goes to a ball party and then she decides her own partner to whom she wants to dance, and then later on it goes with the concept of marriage. The Royal Army officers, after performing their duties, were assigned to propagate their religion. Postcolonialism simply referred to breaking these structures propagated by colonizers. People in Europe were termed as centers, and people in colonies were termed as peripheral. Eurocentrism. Now, Europe is the center of civilization, and the beam of light is coming through it over the whole world. Now, what is white man's burden? It means that white people colonize regions in order to bring civilization, but in fact, this all was a drama. They only wanted to exploit resources, as we can see in the novel Heart of Darkness, where the Englishmen do destroy their resources by overusing it, and even taking the use of people and making them work for them. So in terms of okay, so study by study, they enter into Igbo society. They make policies of divide and rule in the name of religion and in the name of sectarianism. One strong man was brainwashed, who started working with the Britishers, and then things fall apart. So here the novel which has been discussed is by Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Now, even before the arrival of East India Company in the subcontinent was enriched with trading of silk, and then they arrived, our trading ceased. it finished eventually. They developed a structure with the help of literature. The concept of master and slave, the superiority and inferiority, the educated and uneducated, and we and they. So, world is divided into binaries. Binary opposition means when the concept of opposites like black and white, east and west, such concept has been discussed in binary opposition. Okay, Robinson Crusoe is written by Daniel Defoe. Robinson Crusoe, an Englishman, during his voyage, his ship wrecked, and he arrived in an uninhabited island where he saw some population and noticed them as uncivilized. So he started teaching them language and other culture, etiquettes and civilization as well. Now there's another novel mentioned in Othello, Black Commander. Othello is written by Shakespeare. It's a novel. So, Black Commander in Chief has shown as barbaric. The girl of Duke eloped with him and then they ran away, and since then, Black was termed as bad. Postcolonialism is a reaction when they were writing back to the European empires in order to break binaries. Edward Said, another reference has been mentioned. Edward Said, in his book Orientalism, also argued that though Europeans presented their the West as a center of civilization and East as barbaric, drug addict, engaging in sexual activities, and many more. But quite ironically, all these were present in even Europe as well. Until now, it has been presented, but still, the East or people of the East are always mentioned as barbaric, drug addict, in engaging in sexual activities. Even even the rape cases in their countries is way too high than the rape cases in our countries. Another reference Chinua Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart, where he provided detailed analysis of Federation and African society and the influence of masters tactically. People were living happily, their society was named as Ikpo society. They noticed that some people arrive where they are not alike them and are having some far away complexions and complexities. They demanded land to have to live, and then people denied. They plead for it, so people show them a place where to live, and they throw them in a jungle who died of some curse. The Igbo society were thinking that they'll never live in the dirt, but Europeans became quite surprisingly happy of getting that place. They took their norms seriously, and then they led to their downfall. Later on, the Englishmen wrote even a book on their culture because they took control over their culture and their land and the whole land. In Ngugi wrote the abolition of the English department, where he said the Department of Africa should be introduced instead of Department of English. Another reference, homi.k.bhabha, most influential, one of them who provided the concept of imitation. Now, what is imitation? The concept of mimicry. Then people do say that after you do the mimicry of people, like even we now speak English, we are imitating the Englishmen. So after even imitation of them, it transforms into mockery. When British enlarged their culture, they imparted into our minds, and we are that we are illiterate, uncivilized. So we started copying them. That this is known as imitation. Here, culture and imperialism says that people might think that they are independent, but they are mistaken. It provides the concept of decolonization of mind. We are physically independent, but our minds are not independent. We are inheriting, or we have inherited European culture, language, and so on. Then here is a Professor Morris who argued that religion is not even able to heal our souls, so language has the ability to constitute reality. In order to propagate literature, people choose language over religion. Then people of that time chose language over religion. D.H. Lawrence argued that the masters observe world as if everything belonged to them and were born to serve them, in a way that we became successful in getting independence from colonial masters. We moved from colonial world into imperial world. Imperial world means when the world is ideologically occupied. Homi.k.bhabha provided the concept of identity crisis, hybridity, and ambivalence. We are in confused state. Now, what is identity crisis? It is a novel by Mohsin Hamid. reluctant fundamentalist. So he discussed the concept of identity crisis, where while we adopt the identity of another person, so even our identity, our original identity gets in crisis. Hybridity means when you are having one solo culture and then you adopt another person's culture, so you become hybrid. Ambivalence is when you when you even love and when you have a love and hate relationship with something which you like, and then later on you kind of hate it. In the novel, love and hate or ambivalence concept has been mentioned in a way that first the protagonist of the novel, the reluctant fundamentalist, used to love their culture, language and religion. But later on, when he is humiliated for his own true religion, so he kind of develops an hatred with their religion, culture and language. And then he comes back to Pakistan and he propagates his religion and he educates his people of his own homeland. Okay, so we are in a confused state. We are dancers of hyphens, Pakistani Americans in a sense that we somehow favors their concepts, ideas, objects, and sometimes we oppose. We do not even know completely who we are. It happened on the basis of imitation or identity crisis. It even comes under the concept of ambivalence. We started copying them, thinking ourselves to be as inferior and them as superior. Hybridity means adopting elements of both cultures. So I hope these three concepts have been clear so far. In the conclusion, it has been mentioned that Ngugi's decolonization of mind. What does it mean now? Physically, we got independence, but not psychologically, not through the mental level. Deep inside, we all belong to Europe. We think them as superior, reluctant fundamentalists by Mohsen Hamid, so our mind are not decolonized. A new imperialism is a kind of economical colonization. Colonies are made economically dependent. For instance, IMF is now controlling us. Nomadic identity. People should be given nomadic identities. It means when we travel to another country, we should be given equal identities. No judgment should be passed on the basis of inferiority or superiority. We should be made citizens of that country as well. This was all about post-colonialism, decolonization, colonization, and I hope you people like this video. If you liked, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to my channel. Share it as much as you can. Thank you so much.